Let people fail, let them come back and work with them. We have to run away from this concept that failing is bad. Give them complex things that are going to make them grow, but you need to be their mentor. Sit down with your teams. Go and listen to the calls. Go and sit in the middle of the sales pit and ask them, what is frustrating you today? And maybe you will find a creative way that they have not seen. That is from being in the trenches with people. So I joke about it because, as we all say in sales enablement, if things go well, nobody's going to come and celebrate us. But wait until one thing goes wrong.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Ocean, founder and CEO of Sell Me the Spend. Today, I'm super excited. I have Adriana.
Wow.
There we go.
Wow.
Adriana Romero on the call. Just a little context about her background. She started as an engineer, then led a number of teams, Salesforce, OpenText, making the rest of us look bad. I'm going to give the microphone to you, Adriana. Tell us all the stories.
Oh my God, how long do you have, Michael? I'm turning 50 this year. It's like, this is when you realize. So I'm going to start with a good story. In September is when I celebrate, October, we celebrate years of graduation from university. And there was this whole fanfare because it's also the university's anniversary. And I was making some math and I'm like, oh, I graduated 26 years ago. Whoa. So this is when you realize, as you said, there's a lot of experience. So please don't take it that I am, I think I have achieved some things, but there's also the years. But thank you, Michael, for having me on in your podcast and having this conversation today. Yes, I am a systems engineer. That's what I studied in university. I know people would say, what is an engineer doing in enablement? It's very interesting because I know that when you're a kid, kids very seldomly say, I want to be a systems engineer, right? It's kind of something that also during the time I went to university, it was not popular. It was the 90s. And I just wanted to do things to make things easier. My whole thing in life has always been, how do I improve things? And that has translated to many areas of my life. And I discovered systems engineering. It was brand new and it was great. Systems engineering brought me to technology, which I had always enjoyed as a kid. And it was a great career. And when I ended systems engineer, there was a big path. I ended up joining a company to do logistics and supply chain. And that led me into a path of working with technology, which eventually led me into working into sales of technology. So I was in sales. When I came to Canada almost 19 years ago, I saw what is the path, because it's very hard to immigrate as you know it, and to understand what is it that you do with what you bring. Ended up also selling technology. That's how I ended up in OpenText the first time, was as an account executive for OpenText. I have sold most of my life. I have sold a supply chain related software. Then I sold portfolio software, which was very engineering oriented. And one day after I had my daughter, I went into a sales training and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I asked the person, so what do you do? That person said, oh, we work in sales enablement. I'm like, wow, what is this? Tell me more. And then suddenly I realized this is what I want to do. That was the moment I realized I wanted to do something different. I pursued it. I ended up doing sales enablement at OpenText. I got immersed into onboarding. That was my program. So this is why I'm very passionate about onboarding. And I continued sales enablement in a few startups. My last startup got acquired by Salesforce, as you said. And then was the opportunity to, what do I do next after doing sales enablement for almost 8 years? And this opportunity of doing engineering enablement came along. And I said, so I'm going to take it. As you can see my pattern, I'm not afraid of new things or change. And I've been doing engineering enablement for the last 18 months. I can't believe it's already that time. It's been fascinating to discover what translates, what doesn't, and what are the challenges that you have in a highly technical environment like engineering that you do not have in sales. But here we are. Right? That's 26 years of career summarized in 5 minutes.
There we go. A real salesperson in action. This is the value prop. You got it.
Woo!
Take it.
Let me take a sip of coffee now.
I love it. Thanks for sharing. Look, it's so interesting that so many of us in Canada, we just, immigrated from somewhere else, right? We had to adapt. And even in your career, it seems like you were not scared of change. Okay, I started as an engineer. We get into sales. Cool. It's a new experience. Let's see. And then you just walk the path and got where you are right now. So let me ask you something. You led enablement for
Yes.
revenue teams and now engineering teams. Complete different worlds. It's like you speaking Spanish and English at the same time, right? Your brain is
Which
always
happens
like
every day, Michael. It happens every day.
I
Don't
know.
worry. Sometimes, you know it as speaking more than one language. It does happen.
Absolutely. So, what's been the most surprising about leading these different functions? They're completely different. So I'm just curious to know.
It's been the first challenge is the size of the function, right? We lead around or over 7,000 engineers through enablement in a lot of countries. Between Canada and China, it's like a lot of countries in the middle. So you're dealing with the aspects of being highly technical, cultural differences, language barriers in many cases. And you have to tailor and you have to target for this very wide clientele. I think the biggest challenge was getting my team together because we had just made a very big acquisition at OpenText. So part of my team came from that acquisition, which they were doing things that might not have been enablement, might have been very particular training, or maybe it was design, or maybe it was managing some very point and specific area of what they called engineering training. I also had to hire people in this process. So it was a mix of inheriting and hiring and I was new again to OpenText after 5 years being away. So I had the advantage of knowing OpenText, which was
Mm.
great. And even though I never programmed a product at OpenText, I sold them. So I understood what we were doing. So I think the biggest challenge for me when I sat in front was, what does my customer really need? And how do I get this team of only 8 people to look like we've got this, right? So in less than a year, because actually all my team ended up coming together in January, I had to basically make this seamless. Like we couldn't make the customer feel like they were missing anything. Plus integrating and making change for a set of people in different regions and, with different differences. There's generational differences, there's cultural differences. So I think that has been the challenge, and to make sure that we find ways to understand and talk with our customer the most times that we can, right? Because I can't be serving people every week. I have to figure out better ways. So I would say those have been the challenges, and that has been what I have been working on all these
Doing all
months
of that with 8 people in one
with
year.
8 people in 1 year, less than a year.
I can't even
It's
imagine.
and
Handful.
we've had some very interesting internal projects that has, been taking priorities. Imagine changing a sales methodology. Imagine something like that. Imagine changing your CRM and moving
Mhm.
from one to another. Also, throw that in the mix.
7,000 people. I cannot even imagine like being in the room seeing all these people. Okay, we run this virtually, all that. But I'm trying to understand, like, when you compare sales to engineering
Yes,
right now,
yes.
obviously, like, you're running enablement for them. How do you compare, like, working with these two very different teams? Like, I'm a seller, you're an engineer dash seller. So I want to hear, like, what do you see, like, in terms of your buyer personas internally?
Yes.
What are the main differences?
It's the level of detail that each one of them want. In sales, you're very nimble. Give me the pill, the little condensed, give me the guide, the one pager, because I need to go and sell. Very different with the technical audience. The technical audience goes deep. It's like, give me more advanced training, show me more of this. So it has been a change of mindset of not building for being fast, but building for being deep, because these people need the deep knowledge. Also, these are people that naturally are going to go and learn on their own. So
Mhm.
it's not like I control the entire process. They will do it. And it has to have the flexibility of, let you go and do your thing. Bring me the things as well. And let's look if I have some subject matter expertise, which we have a lot because of that. So it gives us an advantage that I very little have to go outside to look for some things. I can source it inside. The other thing is that in sales, there was easier way to do metrics for enablement, right? And
Yep.
it's funny because when I was in sales enablement, it's like, oh my God, it's so difficult. How do I get this? Now I'm here and I cannot manage a way of, how can I measure the productivity of a software engineer? So you have to come up with very creative ways of understanding the impact of enablement within this group, you cannot take a lot of time, like in the sales teams, to give them the things that they need. Coaching is another big thing. Mentorship is another big thing here. So we need to figure out the ways to do it. So in a way, there's a lot of similarities, but in another way, the differences are really, really polar opposites. And I think sometimes my frustrations have come from, in sales, it was easy to do metrics. Here, I don't. I am very lucky to have a team that is very creative and loves to sit down and whiteboard. So we have been able to do that. And we have been come up with ways of figuring out our impact. Either if it's impact on the budget that we use or the impact of because we did these many trainings on this, we can see that our sprints are going better. So we have made an impact on that, but I cannot correlate it. I cannot say, oh, the sprints have gotten faster or we have less bugs. I can't say that. I cannot. And it's such an interesting process because it is not, it's engineering. It should be precise, but it is an art as well. So that has been the difference. It's also the conversations you have when you're talking with engineers. You have to be very direct. You have to really kind of sit down and understand. Many times you don't understand what is it that they need or they want. And I don't pretend to. And my team doesn't pretend to either. We tell them, you tell us what you need, explain it to us. We will go figure this out. So we have been able to build learn paths, and we have been able to curate content based on people that have given us their time and their subject matter expertise to do so. So we're not blind, and we're not doing anything that doesn't have high quality.
This is super fascinating. I never actually thought about it this way. You said like in sales, you can measure things. Like, yeah, you can measure your efficacy because it's very direct. Yes. You booked the meeting, you sold it, the velocity, everything is clear. When it comes to engineering, you cannot really track that efficacy of your practice.
No, you can't. There is no funnel. There is no moving things through the funnel. There is no correlation of I did 10 calls, I booked 5 demos. No. It does not exist. So even though it's very structured, because the way that we work in this agile world, the way that we produce products, it doesn't mean that I can actually pinpoint that. Right. And also you might be a developer that does things one way, and besides you is another developer that does things different way. And you both can get great results, but I cannot measure you the same way.
This is so challenging in an interesting way because I'm thinking about it right now. I'm just putting myself in your position. I'm saying, look, okay, so if I cannot build the standardization, if I cannot measure my efficacy, if again, my target audience, they relate to you, I believe, because you're an engineer, but to your point, they're extremely, technical. They have their own space. Like, you don't understand my world. I'm working with a team of engineers. Well, I love them. Like, they're amazing people, very smart. But to your point, it's different, completely different set of audience in front of you. So I want to bring something out. We all know it, like whoever's in enablement or involved in an enablement in some shape or form. We know that we don't get the appreciation we deserve. Like you do whatever you do, you track the efficacy of your practice. People do survey, like even reps, shout out loud that these guys are superstars. You don't get it. So now that I said it, like with your scenario right now, with your situation, you're dealing with something that cannot be even measured. So I'm just curious. You tell me, how do you?
It's the same way. It's the same.
Same scenario.
It's the same. So I joke about it because, as we all say in sales enablement, it translates. If things go well, nobody's going to come and celebrate us. But wait until one thing goes wrong. And it doesn't even have to do with you. Don't worry. That was them. They have to check it, and it's their fault. It's kind of the same way in a way, but the appreciation still is not there, right? We have to celebrate ourselves within our team. I think that's one of the biggest things for me as a leader is to make sure my team feels appreciated by me. We also have the advantage of having an incredible VP who appreciates us. If I ask the leadership team, they will say the same. But it's not like everybody is saying, it's commending this. We're not up there winning the awards. But I do that I think as a leader, it is important that you reinforce that with your team, that you make sure that they know that their efforts are valuable, that we did things that are important for the organization, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that in every enablement role. And And I think as a leader is to make sure that your team knows that even if nobody sends you a shout out, if nobody says thank you for doing this, me as a leader appreciates them and my leader appreciates them too, so they can keep doing the hard work. And that's the way we kind of feed ourselves that.
Do you believe your reps burn leads practicing on client calls? When it comes to giving them one-on-one coaching sessions, you just don't have the bandwidth, so you get rid of them altogether? Or maybe you notice that your team spends a lot of time on non-revenue tasks like taking notes, updating CRM, or drafting emails? These are the exact challenges we solve for other revenue leaders like yourself. With Sell Me the Spend AI Coach, you can offer your reps role-play sessions at scale while automating one-on-one coaching sessions based on your best practices and methodology. Also, AI will take care of all their non-revenue tasks, like note-taking, CRM updates, draft the email for them, so they can focus on constant improvement while you're focusing on one thing and one thing only: revenue growth. If you're interested in learning more about the clients we are working with or use cases that might be beneficial to you, check us out at sellmethespend.ai. Let me ask you this. You've been around leading teams for a long time. Is there anything that you can remember that you could say, like, I wish I knew this earlier, leading whether my managers or my specialists, that you just recently realized?
Yes, I think that one thing that and it's also a matter of maturity, right? When you're leading teams and you're younger, you're more eager, you don't stop to understand that you have to learn about the person's personality, cultural circumstances, and even learning process, right? Everybody learns in a different way. Everybody needs a different way of explanation. All those things, you have to consider it with each person in your team. I think that, and this goes also to any role of manager, a sales manager and an enablement manager. I think that when I led teams before, and I'm looking way back when I was still back home in Venezuela, it was very different. It was like, we're here, we're all together, we're doing it. And I also didn't understand the importance of just giving people an instruction and letting them fail. Let people fail, let them come back and work with them. I think that we have to run away from this concept that failing is bad. You know, I think that after I became a parent, I understood that a little bit better too. How many tries it takes a baby to learn how to walk. If they don't fall down, they don't learn how to walk, right? It's the same with the team. Give them complex things that are going to make them grow, but you need to be their mentor. You cannot do it for them. You cannot give them the answers, but you can guide them. Let them fail, let them go and do something, but don't let them burn. That's very important. Let them fail, but not let them burn. Make sure they're prepared before they go into any situation that involves senior management. Details are sometimes tedious, right? And not everybody's into details. I am one. I'm going to raise my hand.
Me too.
I like
Me
when we
too.
just do things, right? But it's
Yep.
like, no, let's make sure no, it drives me crazy. But I have learned that that is important. And if I take the time to go with my team and say, let's go through this one more time. And they're like, but why? It seems okay. No, we're going to go through this one more time. And I tell them, I do not want you to go through this in front of a senior leader. I would rather you go at it with me. And the other thing is, don't let them go alone. Let's say you give somebody a project and you have worked with them and you have mentored them, and now it's their turn to do a big presentation or to, go to a meeting and talk about it. Be there to support them. Let them take the stage. Let them take the spotlight. And if you feel that they get stuck somewhere, jump in to help them. And that I have learned a great deal. I think I have been very lucky in my career, having had and still have managers that do that with me. And I'm able to then do it forward. So that would be one of the things that I think I have learned throughout the years. And now managing a bigger group, it is more important than ever. And sometimes I look at my week and I say, how did I spend my week? Did I sit down and create something, a new program? I might have thought about 2,000 new ideas for what we can do. Maybe right now it's not the right moment. But then I say, I spent my time mentoring my team, that it was a good week because they moved forward. Did they learn? Yes. Did they move forward? Yes. Then it's a good week. It might be tedious. It might be, you will drain a lot of energy, but that is the most important part of your role.
To your point, I think that's what leadership is all about. You get burned.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Look, startups, this is our everyday life. We have to
Mm-hmm.
fail. There's no other way around it. You keep trying, and then someday you figure things out, but you do it quickly and
Someday it
fast.
happens.
How do you bring that culture inside a large organization? Second question to that is, like, you as a leader, you have that mindset. I can see it. You have a team. How do you
Yeah.
ensure that they actually bring this culture with them and really try to not do the job for their audience, but help them, support them, lead them? How do you do that?
I think it's I think it's also the organization you are in, how it plays a big role. I think that the bigger the organization, the more difficult it is to have that creative space to do things. I think I'm very lucky. Reason why I came back to the company I'm at right now, is that I know that there is a certain degree of creative freedom in doing what I do because people trust me. They brought me in and they trust me. They guide me, but they trust me that I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not going to, roll out a program that makes no sense, or I'm going to do a communication that is, contradicting what we do, or do something that is not ethical. So that is the number one. So you have to be comfortable in being in the place where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot change a big organization. It's not going to change. It's too big. But if you have that creative freedom within the department that you work and you have that ability, then do it. I think that even the biggest organizations benefit from having that startup mindset of being nimble, being quick, failing fast, and trying to deliver results as fast as you can. Yes, you will be faced with a little bit more scrutiny. You will be faced with maybe a little bit more bureaucracy, but don't lose it, because people will appreciate it. And the review process and maybe the feedback process is going to be a little bit more, but it's there for a reason, and it's not so bad. So I would say that those two things help. And when you are a leader, as I said, you need to inspire the people. So they need to see, it's like parenting. They need to see you do it. I did not come into this role and let people do the things. I came into this role and I have been doing the things. Just that little by little, I become less hands-on. So let's say we start a program. I start it with the person. I have that inception. We start to build it, and suddenly I say, I am ready to take my hands off of this, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
yours. And we will just meet to see how progress is going. That has become what I'm doing at this point, right? I would love to continue to have hands-on, maybe my onboarding program. I built it. It's there. It was my baby. We got it last year. We got it for me. We got it, in a very well position. It's not my job to continue to nurture it, and my job to give it to somebody else. So when you give that same freedom and that creative freedom to the people, and you tell them, build it the way you think it should be, teach them to bring their creativity, and also foster them to do things that are going to enhance their creativity. We do a lot of things within my team of, what are you reading? What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing right now? What other things besides work are you doing? I have in my team people that love to paint, love to sing, love to dance, love to read, love to be with nature. Let's bring this. Let's bring this, and let's see how we're all doing. So that is how you bring kind of like that startup mentality within a big company. Now, I do have to say, if you have been a pure startup person, it is a learning curve to go into a big corporation, and expect it to feel frustrating at some points. I have done them both, and I have done the big corporation to the startup, and the startup to the big corporation. So I've done the two. I have been in the position of being acquired and acquiring, which is also another thing that happens in this world as well. You just need to be comfortable with change, and it is very difficult for human beings to be
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with change. It's just a process. That's it.
You know what I'm hearing here? It's been a pattern that I think we recorded like 20 something episodes so far. And most of the people like yourself that get on the show, they're people that I know, and people that I personally trust. And I know you're leading your team, not only with passion, you really care. You want to build
Yeah.
other leaders. And the same pattern I'm hearing here is that, first and foremost, don't be a theoretical, leader. Get hands on. And I remember I was reading something, founder of Saster shared the other time, said, like, I'm chatting with a lot of VPs of sales in the Valley or elsewhere, and they just want to get out of sales literally by saying, like, I'm not selling anymore. I arrived. I said, no, you're in sales. Yes,
Yes,
maybe you
you.
don't go do prospecting, but you're still in
Yeah,
sales. How do you want your people to trust you if you
a
cannot do
hundred
the job?
percent. There has to be a level of doing things. There has to be a level of mentoring things. And just always don't lose that sight. Don't lose that sight of build something. Don't lose the sight of speak with your customer. We recently did a massive survey because we use some external learning platform. And I said, oh, we have been using it before I joined. Have we asked them how they like it?
Mm-hmm.
No, we just see a lot of people requesting it. I'm like, but do we know why they like it? Like I'm like, I can't sit down and talk with 4,000 people about it,
Yeah.
but I really want to know. So what's the
Mm-hmm.
best way? Michael, if you know me, you know I'm not a fan of surveys or tests or anything like that, but sometimes you need to use the tool that is the most
Yeah.
appropriate for the mass of people that you need to reach. So I said, let's do a survey and let's ask them. We spend so much time creating the survey just
Mm.
because I'm like, I don't want typical questions. I really
Yeah.
want to know. I want to know if they complete it. I want to know if they have as quality. I want to know if they use it. Because let's face it, if we're not using it, why are we paying for it, right? And I think that it is important to always make sure. And I think, and I say, I'm going to say this a lot to the sales enablers because I know this is the biggest audience. Sit down with your teams, go and listen to the calls, go and sit in the middle of the sales pit, and kind of hear the vibe and ask them what is frustrating you today. I'll sit down with an SDR and ask them what their challenges are. And maybe you will find a creative way that they have not seen. That is for me also doing the job and being in the trenches with people. And it will reinvigorate you too. It will reinvigorate the ideas that you have for what you are creating. And you will create an impact on the person. Believe it or not, you are. Just by that little interaction, you are. Never underestimate the power of that influence.
I found this really, really interesting because I go back to my experience, I don't know, 10 years selling in different organizations. I barely noticed that enablement, maybe they were interested, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't give them this chance to allow themselves to come and say, hey, can I come on your call? Can I listen to
Yeah.
your thing? Just into my face. Maybe you do it in the background, but come and just have a conversation with the team. Just be more involved in one-on-one settings. Like
Yeah.
just reach out. And I genuinely believe like sellers, if they are good, if they really want to get good at what they do, they welcome it so much because it's
Oh,
support.
100%. If they want to improve, and it's interesting because I'm going to translate that to what I'm doing right now, right? We've always spoken about, that polarized opinion of for you to be a good sales enabler, you have to have done sales. I'm not going to state my opinion there because then we're going to start a whole
Another
issue.
topic.
That's another topic.
Another day.
That's another an hour. But I came into a world where I have not touched a line of code since 1997. Let's put it that way. What do I know about modern day development? I don't. Like when I was developing code in university, Agile was not even out there. So I said, okay, I need to learn about this. So I decided, I remember one of the first things I did is I told my Agile coach, I want to join one of your sessions. I want to join a retro. For those who don't know and are not familiar with the Agile world, this is when you look back and you see what happened in like the last kind of chunk of time where you did some development, right? Let's call it sprint. So I sat down in a retro and I wanted to see the interactions. I wanted to see how the product manager interacted, how the developer, the QA interacted, how the manager was there, how the scrum master or the scrum leader was talking. And to understand what was the whole thing, what did we show, how did my coach, and understand their world and their language. I thought I was going to be silent the entire 2 hours that we were in the retro. I actually found myself kind of giving an opinion and talking about things and them being welcoming about it. And I'm like, look,
Mm.
I'm no agile
Yeah.
person. I have never studied this. I'm learning it, but I can see X, Y, and Z, and this would be maybe a great thing to do. But it took me sitting down with them to understand it, right? And sitting in other retros, or maybe sitting in a sprint, or maybe going into a scrum and listening to them. It is important to speak with your client.
But to me, like enablers are some of the most curious people I've met.
Yeah.
Like more than other, functions in go to market, if I can share.
Yes.
So I think the bigger problem, this is how I see it, and maybe I'm completely off base. You've been in leadership with many, many different size organizations. It comes really from top down. Do we allow our people to really put their curiosity into work? Do we like really give them the power to have a say and say, hey, I want to be part of this process. I am part of this process, actually. I don't want to be. I am part of
Yeah,
this
I
revenue
am.
org. So why not getting more involved? I think it comes from through the leadership. They have to promote it even. guys get involved, you are part of this.
There's a twofold there, and I'm gonna throw one. Sometimes you have to ask for forgiveness and not for permission. Just go and do it. What's the worst that's gonna happen if you get
Hmm.
yourself into a call, or if you join a meeting, or if you sit down in the pit and listen to things, or if you tag along somewhere? What is the worst that can happen? A leader is gonna say, just don't do it again. Okay, is that the organization you want to be in? That poses some other questions. Sometimes leadership might be too busy to tell people go and do it. So go and do it. When we talk about the being nimble, like being in a
Hmm.
startup, just go and do it. People in
Yeah.
startups are waiting to tell people to do things. They need self starters, right?
Hmm.
Do it also in whatever organization you are. The worst that can happen is that somebody says don't do it again. Well, that's not bad. We're not saving lives. You're not opening somebody to do any procedure. So I would say go and do it. Be proactive about it. Don't be scared. And I think that also that happens. Enablers feel like, oh, but I can't go and I can't join that meeting, or I can't give an opinion. Why not? Like,
Hmm.
why not? Don't be scared of doing this. And I think leaders, as you said, us as enablement leaders should encourage our teams to do that. For example, when my teams are developing a program, we had a very big internal project, and I told my team I want us involved with the project team from the beginning. Oh, but they're not doing enablement at the beginning. I want you guys involved, and I want you to know as much as all the project team of what's happening. I want you to know everything, but they're like, but we're not implementing it. But it's important that you know, because by the time you're thinking about how you're going to enable the team, you're going to know what type of sessions you need, how many sessions you need, what information. You need to know what happens after. You need to foresee if people are going to need a little bit more coaching about it after you teach it. So we did that, and I encouraged them to even get hands on. I'm like, go and do the train, go and do the sessions if they're explaining something, and see also if it's valuable. And they saw many things that they would have not seen anyway. I didn't have to get involved. We had like 8 different projects going on, but it helped us. And now they know, and they're not scared to go in and say, hey, enablement needs to be involved in this from the beginning. And we just, we butted our noses in there. I was not afraid. I mean, and if they would close the doors,
Yeah.
I would try a little bit harder, but just do it. Ask for forgiveness after. I mean, there's things that it's okay if you're proactive about.
Yeah, I love this. Like it's even in startups, like believe it or not, I remember I was part of this accelerator and they were just saying, hey, your CTO, your technical person, does not have domain expertise. So why do you keep getting them involved in the sales process? Like of course,
Mm-hmm.
like they're co-founders, but even if in small teams, if people don't understand what other people are doing, so we are
Yeah.
always communicating. Like let's say I just had this conversation with this client and they said this feature can bring this kind of impact.
Yeah.
You either build people that just follow you. Hey, just build it for me. Sure, thank you very much.
No, you
Then
want people to question you.
exactly, that's what you need.
Yes. Yes. You
Because
need people to understand why, to ask you why. Why are we want to build this? Why is that important? Another topic. I believe it's very important for me to involve my engineers in how our customers use our products.
100%, a hundred
It's
percent.
like, it's key for me. It's like the next stage of, I don't only have to teach you how to build the product, I need to teach you how people are using what you build. And I remember I was in a startup once, and the engineers came to me and said, we're building a product for you because it was an enablement product, but we don't know how enablers use it. And we get all these requests, and the CS team tells us all these things, and we don't see them as important. But maybe because we
Mm.
don't understand your world. Oh my God, that was like music to my ears. I spent 2 hours explaining to a group of engineers how an enablement person worked, and why maybe having something color coded was important, or maybe have a list some way was important, or maybe how to design things were important, because they saw it from my eyes, right? And they said, oh, now we get it. So, as you said, making sure that kind of people understand what everybody is doing is also important. And I've always said that enablement has a big part of that. I would call us the data dictionary between functions. And it's so important for sales because sales always is deemed as, oh, there's a salespeople. And then sales is like, I don't understand everything else. Then be that bridge, be that, connect the people, bring product marketing or product management to talk about what is 101. What does a product manager do? I know it seems very basic, but don't have you felt, Michael, that people sometimes forgets the basics? And I tell people,
110%. I wanted to actually talk about this, but go for it.
yes, I'm like, start the book in page 1. Don't start at the end. Don't start in the middle. Why? Why do we do? What does, oh, now I get it, right? Super important.
100% to me, enablers are glue between all orgs inside GTM. Because
Yes.
just imagine, like, let's just be really honest. The way we work with marketing, with product, with RevOps, with all the functions in revenue organizations, right? It's very disjointed. And we can say, yes, we are a team, we work together. Marketing, just come up with a new messaging, send it out. Guys, everybody should use it. Sure, of course. And then salespeople, who's actually bringing everything together? I
Yeah.
always look at it this way. And I can't believe, like, especially when you pass certain headcount in your sales organizations, now we're talking about engineering as well. How can't you have an enabler in place? Who's actually being that glue in between, all these teams? How do you build that alignment?
You have to also, you as an enabler have to, as you said, you have to be curious and go and learn about them. And you have to, when you're doing your things, you have to say, oh, this would be a great moment to involve this team, or this would be great for this team to come and teach us. Or, if you have like a weekly session, oh, let's bring this team and get them to talk about this. Teams like legal. Sellers are always complaining about why are the lawyers, giving me all this nonsense about the contracts and I don't get it. Bring the lawyers and let them explain their day in and day out and why this is important. When you understand that, then you say, okay, now I get it. Regulations are tough to understand, and sometimes they are, you feel that they're just like blocking you. Understand why they're there. There's a team of people that work on that for a reason. So yes, I think that, and that is also when we relate that back into leadership, is be that enablement leader that's going to get your team to do this. Remind them about these things. We sometimes get too focused on, oh, we're building the program. Oh, we have to do SKO. Let's get a little bit out of our box and let's figure out what else can we do and how do we bring all these elements.
I really, really love that. Thank you very much, Adriana. Look, you gave me 4 or 5 topics right now. I think we should do a panel. At some point, we should do a live panel.
I would love that. I think that would be great.
Awesome. Look, Adriana, thank you very much for taking the time. If someone wants to reach out, first and foremost,
Yes.
can they and how?
Of course. LinkedIn is always the best way. So my LinkedIn profile, you can tag it there when you publish the episode. It's always easy. I'm always happy to brainstorm ideas, talk about what we're working on, see what, thoughts are. I will have questions too. And I really feed from the ideas of others. So I am very open to connect. And if you're in the Toronto area or in Canada and you're around, please, let's see if we can even meet up. In person is always great. So
FOMO for Michael.
FOMO for Michael. Oh, Michael. Well,
I'll be back
it's okay. Don't worry, you'll be back. You will be back. We will see you again.
Awesome. All right, great chatting with you. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and see you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody.